Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping straight into the source material on a pretty significant update in the electric vehicle world. The 2026 BMW iX.
Oh yeah, this one's been making waves, especially that top model.
Exactly. If you're interested in where high-end electric performance is heading, you'll want to hear this. We're talking the iX M70 specifically, pushing up to 650 horsepower.
And hitting 100 kilometers per hour in just 3.6 seconds. That's seriously quick for something this size.
It really is. So our mission today is to dive into these sources and figure out if this iX actually pulls off that balance, between the crazy speed and luxury and the practical side efficiency range.
Right. Can BMW genuinely give you a machine that ticks both boxes, the performance enthusiast and the, let's say, everyday luxury EV buyer? Let's see.
Okay, so let's kick off with the powertrains. The sources show three pretty different options here. There's a new entry point, the iX xDrive 45.
Yeah, that one gives you a solid 402 horsepower, and the range is quoted around 502 kilometers. Decent starting point.
But then you've got the one really optimized for distance, right? The iX xDrive 60.
That's the one. It dials the power up a bit to 536 horsepower, but critically it gets the longest range of the bunch, up to 586 kilometers.
And how did they manage that extra range on the 60? It's not just a bigger battery, is it?
No, not entirely. The sources really point to engineering improvements, things like optimizing the thermal management, refining the motor efficiency, basically squeezing out more distance from the energy available.
That makes sense. Attention to detail. Now, one thing that's consistent across all trims, even that high-power M70, they all use the xDrive system.
Correct. BMW's intelligent all-wheel drive. So you've got dual electric motors, one front, one rear, and it's all managed through a single-speed transmission. Pretty standard setup for performance EVs now.
But you definitely need that sophisticated AWD when you're dealing with, well, the physics involved here.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially considering the power and, as the sources mentioned, the sheer weight. The M70 comes in at, what, over 2,600 kilograms?
Yeah, up to 2,653 kilograms. That's substantial.
Exactly, and that's where the suspension really earns its keep. The adaptive air suspension is key. It's standard on some, optional on others, but it's crucial for trying to balance that weight with decent handling and comfort.
Right. It actively adjusts ride height, damping, trying to keep things controlled without sacrificing that plush ride you expect.
It's a tough balancing act with that much mass.
So we've talked power, we've touched on handling implications. What about keeping these things running? Range and charging. The xDrive 60 is the range king at 586 kilowatt. What happens when you need to plug in?
Okay, charging. Both the xDrive 60 and the M70, according to the sources, can handle DC fast charging up to a peak of 195 kilowatts.
195 kilowatt peak, and that translates to?
About 35 minutes to get from a 10% charge up to 80%, which is, reasonably quick for most people on a longer trip.
Okay, 35 minutes, 10 to 80. But here's where our deep dive needs to look closer. Some sources flag that 195 kilowatt peak as maybe a slight drawback.
Yeah, you see that critique. Compared to some rivals pushing, say, 250 or even 270 kilowatt peaks, 195 might seem a little conservative.
It's not the absolute fastest headline number out there.
Right. Though it's worth noting that sometimes a slightly lower peak that's held more consistently can be just as effective as a higher, spikier peak. It's nuanced. It's not slow, but maybe not class-leading peak speed.
Got it. Okay, let's shift inside. Luxury and tech. The cockpit seems like a major focus.
Oh, definitely. The BMW Curved Display is the centerpiece. You've got that big sweeping panel combining the 12.3-inch driver display and the 14.9-inch central screen running their latest OS 8.5.
Looks very sleek. But luxury is more than just screens, right? What else stood out in the sources?
Well, the sound system option sounds incredible. Bowers & Wilkins Diamond surround sound. We're talking 30 speakers.
30 speakers. Wow.
And they mention a 4D audio feature, too, using vibrations in the seats to enhance the bass. Sort of immersive sound.
Interesting. And that glass roof?
Ah, yes, the Sky Lounge roof. It's electrochromic, so you can change the transparency with a button press, go from clear to opaque. That's pure wow factor tech.
Definitely adds to that futuristic luxury feel.
Yeah.
Shows they're thinking about the whole cabin environment.
Exactly. But for balance, we need to talk trade-offs. The sources are pretty consistent on a few criticisms.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, that massive kidney grille design up front. Still very polarizing. Love it or hate it, basically.
Yeah, that's not going away anytime soon, it seems.
Hmm.
What else?
Second, we circle back to that weight. Up to 2,653 kilos for the M70. The sources say it just fundamentally impacts how sharp the car feels in tight corners. Physics, Can't argue with physics. And the third point,
No frunk. That's a common EV perk, extra storage under the hood. BMW apparently prioritized packing the motors and all the related electronics and cooling systems up there instead, so no front trunk space.
okay, a practical consideration for some buyers.
Definitely. So, putting it all together for you listening, the 2026 iX looks like a really strong player in the luxury EV space. You get blistering speed with the M70 or seriously impressive range and efficiency with the xDrive 60. It covers those bases well. Lots of innovative tech inside too.
For sure.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, something interesting from the source material. Despite the performance focus and that heavyweight, the iX actually scores incredibly well in safety tests. A 5-star Euro NCAPP rating, 91% for adult occupant protection, which is outstanding.
That is interesting.
Right. So the question is, could that significant curb weight, often seen as a negative for handling, could it actually be contributing positively to its structural safety in a crash, turning a potential performance downside into, well, a safety advantage?
That's a fascinating angle. Mass is passive safety. Something to definitely think about as these powerful, heavy luxury EVs become more common.
Exactly. Something for you to ponder. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.